everybody, welcome back for round number 10 of the National Touring Car Championship Season 2. We are going to Circuit de la Sarthe today, or commonly referred to as Le Mans Circuit, for today's race. Two races. I believe the second one is double points and a reverse grid, so that should be very interesting. Before we get into that though, we need to run through an announcement that has been made. I've been staying away from this so I don't spoil it for myself. An announcement has been made on the NTCC page, so we're going to go to that now and get an idea of what's going on for the season. Oh, no. Back.
And the cracks began to show.
Seem to be some audio difficulties going on at the moment, but we'll commentate over it instead. So it looks like what we've got here is a NTCC specific vehicle livery on the Group 3 Mazda, made for you. So looks very similar to the champion livery that was worn by Slappers for the season run so far. But I'm just having a look, and it looks like I see Slappers Mate and MJ Scatters under the champion banner, but it looks like they've got a whole lot of everyone else's names, or it looks like every competitor's name is on the car. So I see Night King, Rioff, Mickey's, Chicamac, Daddy at the back there. I think I spotted my name on the other side as well. So it looks like it's a tribute to everyone who's been part of the series and has competed and supported the series. And it's just a livery, I presume, that we can all use. Initially it looked like it was going to be a livery that was going to be specific to the series, so everyone had to use it, which would be very cool. But it looks like it's more of a giving back kind of idea. So they want to get everyone this free livery to use whenever they like. So that's very cool. I like that. Got it? I like that a lot. Oh, Night King. I didn't spot Star Wars decal on the side of that one. Oh, is that a Boba Fett helmet on the back there? That's cool. Is that new? I'm sure I would have noticed that previously. But that's very cool. I like that. Alright. And on track in the Gridline Racing Qantas livery. It was running last week and the week before. Very cool. Rioff and the BMW. What's he rocking? Is he rocking the standard Red Bull? I think he is. Yep. What we're used to seeing. Night King in his VW. Chef Todd in his VW. Rugworth in the Lexus. Chops in the Toyota that we're used to seeing. Daddy in the Aston Martin running his custom livery. Running the Daddy livery, we do love that. Good stuff, good to see it back. Aussie Hypnotic in the Chevy, with Chicamac in the Porsche. Mickey's, who I suspect will be rocking the livery. No, not quite. Perhaps Cosmic Spirit is rocking at the moment. Let's have a look. Yes, there it is. That's what we wanted to see. So the tribute livery on the event organizer's car. Very cool. Love to see it. It is the closest thing to the Holden. Oh, right, okay. So, yeah. So going for the V8 supercar look. I like it. Classic Aussie. Good stuff. Love to see it. So looking at today's race, long long straight on this track with 2 chicanes. I'm expecting to see good performances from the guys in the Aston Martins. There's a few of them on track at the moment, Ando being the first and primary out of those. The other one being MJ Scatters, the point leader for the championship at the moment. And I believe, who else have we got in the fast straight line cars? I know Aussie Hypnoticas. And of course, how could I forget Daddy as well, also in the Aston Martin. So 4 cars there that'll be very, very quick in a straight line, probably end up leaving the Beetles behind a little bit in that regard, because there's not a lot of technical sections to this track. It's very much a power circuit. So we're probably going to see those guys running away a little bit, but hopefully it becomes a bit of a slipstream battle and we see some positions changing as the race goes on and get towards the last lap. On the National Touring Car Championship page, which is available to everyone, we have the Group 3 standings after round 9. So leading the way, as he has been all season, is MJ Scatters with a healthy 312 points, 100 points exactly ahead of Rugworth in P2. Now, Rugworth is not someone we've particularly seen at the very, very sharp end of the field. I don't think he has a win to his name this season, but he was here from day one. He's consistently finished in the top 5 almost every race, aside from 1 or 2, but never outside the top 10 to my knowledge. So he's been scoring good points week in, week out, and that's what places him currently P2 on the standings with 3 rounds to go. Only 7 points behind him, though, is V Papa AT, also known as Daddy, a crowd favourite with 205 points. So a 7-point gap between those two. And honestly, we're probably expecting to see Daddy potentially win this race and take that P2 away from Rugworth, unless Rugworth can pull something seriously good out of the bag in that RCF. Aussie Hypnotic is currently in P4 ahead of Slapper's Mate in P5, our reigning champion. So Aussie Hypnotic has missed a couple of rounds, so he's very impressive to see him up at the sharp end of the leaderboard like that, with a almost 200 point stack. Only 6 points behind V Papa AT, also known as Daddy. So very close between 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th there, down to Slapper's Mate, and then a 10-point gap down to Ando in the V8 Vantage with 184 points. So Ando, another one who joined late in the series and has been performing consistently at the very, very sharp end of the field. So those points will only continue to go up as the season goes on. So he will not be far away from competing for that podium position on the leaderboard there. So I believe the ones to watch the points change for are Ando and Daddy. Daddy in P3 and Ando in P6. So currently with nearly, well, I think 21 points separating the two of them. So there's plenty of gap between them, but I could definitely see Ando and V Papa AT taking on the guys around them and potentially taking that 2nd and 3rd spot on the championship leaderboard. Down a bit further to Rioff in the BMW with 172 points. Also consistently in the midfield pack, similar to Rugworth. And just consistently on site every race. So he's been scoring consistent points, and we can probably expect him to continue to do so. A top 5 finish here would really serve him well. Cosmic Spirit down in P8 in the V8 Vantage. So quite a big gap there between Rioff and Spirit there. Quite a few points separating the two of them. So it's looking like the top 7 are really set to just fight amongst themselves for the remainder of the season. And we'll see a bit more of a battle between the guys between 8th and maybe 11th or 12th. Yeah, 8th to 12th, very close together. About 40 points covering a lot of them. So Cosmic Spirit in the V8 Vantage, been a consistent driver throughout, always starting near the back or starting on a strategy that puts him at the back and then working his way up the field as the race goes on. So hopefully we'll see a charging performance from him today once again. Chops in the Supra with 132 points. He'll be looking to probably improve his finishing positions from the last couple of weeks. He's had a bit of a sad showing as far as things go in that Supra. I believe he's finished outside the top 10 on a couple of occasions, so he'll be looking to get in there and get amongst the mix here tonight, especially with that straight line speed of the Supra. Mikes in the Mazda Atenza, someone who's been falling back a little bit ever since Ando and Daddy joined the series. I remember seeing him right near the front at the Nürburgring race. I believe he was 5th for the vast majority of the race, but ever since then he's kind of fallen off the pace a little bit and hasn't quite been able to hang with the best of them. Sitting on 126 points, so currently in 10th. He'll be looking to keep that top 10 spot and potentially steal some points from Chops in front. And take himself a bit further up the order in the coming races. Night King in P11 in the Beetle. Surprising to see him so far down the order given the consistent results we've seen from him. Always 5th almost every week. He changed that last week, or the week before rather, at Bathurst. Unsure of what his point score was at Willow Springs last week. But at Bathurst, I believe he was 4th. And proving that 5th place. And we were joking about it being a disappointment for him. But even so, with that result, he's still only on 112 points. So work to do for the Red Bull driver and Star Wars fan, as we saw earlier, to get himself up into that top 10 and get amongst the major points. Fine Doctor in number 13 there. Sorry, I've skipped one here. Nismo, 86 Oz, or commonly referred to as 86 ounces of Nismo, driving the RCF, the Lexus, with 108 points, only 4 points separating him from Night King. We've seen him and we've seen his pace, and given that the RCF will be pretty decent around this track, we might expect to see him hovering inside the top 10 and potentially fighting for those upper level points in this race and in the second race as well. Given that he will, we'd expect to see him probably on the fringes of the top 10 in race 1. That'll put him in a good position for race 2 to potentially get out ahead and get some major points there with that reverse grid race. Fine Doctor in P13 in the Subaru, currently with 64 points. Haven't seen much of him lately, so I don't know if he'll be back for this particular race. Chickamak in the Porsche Run level with 61 points. He'll be looking to get his first top 10 finish, I think, tonight with that Porsche around this particular track. Probably not the best car to be using here, though. Chef Todd in the Beetle, another latecomer to the series. So he's been putting in some decent performances as the season's gone on and improving every week. He'll be looking to get himself up above the 50-point mark. Renegade 4701, not someone we've seen today. Unsure if he is racing tonight, but he has done a couple of races lately, particularly at Alsace. He was very much amongst the mix at that particular race. Boslington we haven't seen too much of. Roadrunner we've seen not at all this season since we've been casting. Xiaomi in P19, Haskins in P20, possibly a newcomer that we haven't seen as of yet, may have started last week. Cheese Pizza and Benjo GLR 19, so another gridline racing driver there with a late entry there. He's new to the standings, so perhaps he'll be here tonight and looking to score some more points. But the ones to watch, definitely MJ Scatters in the Vantage, Daddy in the Vantage, Aussie Hypnotic in the Corvette, and Ando in the Vantage as well. Those 4 we'll expect to be breaking away early and trying to get away from the rest of the crew and just run their own race. But it remains to be seen what will happen there. We can expect to see some seriously competitive driving from those guys. There'll be a couple of guys looking to stick with them around this course, such as Rugworth, Slappers, and Rioff. But as far as the point standings are concerned, that's how we're looking at the end of round 9 going into round 10. So an interesting look at the points there, and there's been a big shake-up ever since that Bathurst race, where it was triple points, which Ando won, I believe, which put him right in the mix for that podium position coming into the this race here. There we go. Qualifying has begun, everyone. So let's get amongst the action. Gotta get rid of the old gauges down the bottom there. first outlap now with plenty of space between them. 15 minutes of qualifying here, so plenty of time to put in a couple of laps. We're looking at a 4-minute outlap and just under 4 minutes the flying lap. Look at the little concertina up there. That's going to be dangerous in the race. So potentially looking for a slipstream. Most of the drivers here looking to get pulled along to get themselves a faster lap. But at the moment, we're looking at a 4-minute lap and then a 4-minute fly and then another 4-minute outlap. And that puts you at 12 minutes. So it's only going to be enough time here for 2 flying laps, and they cannot muck around with their outlaps as well. They're going to have to be straight in and straight back out. So that's very interesting, and it's going to make it pretty tough going into the race. So Ando there in that beautiful Gridline Racing Qantas livery that he always runs. Ando, aka the captain, as we've started calling him. So seeing the likes of a lot of the guys that we have been expecting to see up the front at the front of qualifying as well. So looking to get themselves out of traffic here and into some free air. So Ando in P1, aka the captain. MJ Scatters in P2, aka the shotgun. V Papa AT in P3, aka Daddy. Rocking his custom NTCC livery he made with his ID on the side and Daddy across the rear quarter. Down in P4, Rugworth in the Lexus RCF, rocking the Red Bull livery. Another man we've picked to watch for this particular race as well, Aussie Hypnotic in the Chevrolet Corvette, running a very new looking livery there on that car. Looking very busy, but I do like it. It's got a lot going on. Down in sitting in P6 on the order now is Miquez as well. Miquez rocking the Mazda Atenza. So probably not the best car for this particular track, but if he does have a slipstream on the straights from someone like Aussie Hypnotic, he could be in to set quite a quick lap here. So he'll bear watching, I think, for this particular qualifying session. Check it back in P7 in the Porsche 911 RSR, followed closely by Renegade, who we weren't sure we'd see in this particular race, but we are at the moment in the Hyundai Genesis GR3, rocking the NTCC livery. So it looks like another one there representing the crew. Down in 9th in the Beetle once again, so a few Beetles around at the moment. Chef Todd, one of the latecomers to the series, rocking a new livery on his car. So he was rocking a support desk livery. He's now got a Too Easy Racing livery on there with a bit of a street punk vibe kind of going on there. I do like a bit of that. Down in P10, Slappers, the reigning champion from last season. Someone we've seen flashes of brilliance from this season, particularly at Tokyo. He was very, very strong there, but hasn't seemed to be able to put it there. He has had some connection issues as well as the season's gone along, so been struggling a little bit for seat time, track time, and actually getting through the races as they've come along. Rioff down in P11 in the BMW M6 GT3, rocking a Red Bull livery, as per usual, looking very good. Down a bit further, once again, we've got Chops in the GR Supra. So not looking for a slipstream this race, or this qualifying. Just looking to put his own lap in here, get a banker done. So we've now got less than 10 minutes remaining of qualifying, so these guys are going to have time to finish this flying lap, hopefully with no mistakes, get back into the pits, and go for another outlap before qualifying ends. So down behind there, Cosmic Spirit in the Aston Martin, also looking for a bit of clear air here. Just trying to put his own lap in, get his work done. Rocking the Southern Cross there on the side. We love a bit of that. And the Aussie Pride NTCC livery, as per usual, very sideways through the first chicane there. So that may compromise his lap a little bit, but he'll be looking to make that back. 2.5 seconds as well. So he's going to have to get rid of that before he can cross the line. Otherwise, the lap will not count. Down a bit further, Night King in his Volkswagen Beetle. Looking very good in the Red Bull / Star Wars livery there. We do love a bit of that. Down again to the Fine Doctor in P12. Currently coming through to start his first... Sorry, he's on his first flying lap. And down again, so we've had a bit of a change in positions here, so something's not quite right. We've got Ando down in P13 here, according to what we're looking at on screen. So down behind Night King here. So did he perhaps jump back into the pits after his outlet? Maybe made a mistake early doors on his first flyer. That could really compromise their qualifying session here. We've got Daddy down here in P14 as well, so something may have gone wrong for these guys. MJ Scatters as well coming through the same section of the track. So the 3 Aston Martin drivers and the 3 guys that we've been keeping an eye on and looking to watch out for as this race goes on may have made a race-ending mistake, or a race-changing mistake rather, in their qualifying session here. So perhaps an early mistake from one of the leaders and an abandonment of the lap, causing all 3 of them to get back into the pits and go out again. Yeah, so you see by the graphic on the top there, outlap for MJ Scatters, outlap for Daddy, and outlap for Ando as well. So something's changed their strategy here, and they've gone for a return to the pits. They've got plenty of time now. There's no point rushing this outlap here for Ando. He's running into some traffic here, so he's at serious risk of backing himself up against these guys if he continues on with this lap. He's got plenty of time here. He's only got time for one more flying lap, so he's got 7 minutes to start it. So he could hang back for a very long time here and let these guys get away considerably. So perhaps he'll ease off through the Porsche curves, but we'll see how that goes. Meanwhile, coming across the line, serving a penalty before he does so, Rugworth in the Lexus sets a 4-minute 03.2, right behind Aussie Hypnotic with a 4-minute flat .833. Mickers goes 33 hundredths faster to qualify P1, I believe. Oh, I made a mistake there. I think I had Shift tied it with a 404, re-off with a 403, and chops with another 403. So seeing some consistent times here across the board. Slappers with a 414, so it looks like a serious mistake there for him across that lap at some point. But they continue on, so it looks like they're going for a second flyer here. So perhaps tyres not a particular issue for these guys as they go around, because they're just looking to put in as many flyers as they can. So realistically, if tyre wear is on, they have not put themselves in the best position here, but they may have to just go for it if the tyres are not, tyre wear is not on. But we'll move back down the field a little bit. MJ Scatters starting his possibly second flying lap, with Daddy not far ahead, and Ando purple through sector 1 there, coming out onto the Mulsanne straight, and not far behind Night King here, so he may be looking at running into the back of him if he does catch him a little bit down this straight. Oh, Sliceable Cash in the chat. Welcome back, mate. Good to see you again. Well, I haven't seen you in a while. Sorry, I haven't been live in a bit. Been a little bit tied up with real life. Good to see you back, though. Go and look at my feed and look at the Good Vibes livery I've made. Is that on just on GT Sport? I'll go check that out later if I can. So, Ando, purple there, once again through Sector 2. Not by as much as through the first sector. So perhaps slowing up a little bit. We'll drop back down to Daddy back here, and Scatters also purple through Sector 2, it seems. Oh, he's purple by 2/10 though. So he's considerably up on Ando here. So looking like these guys are definitely putting in the faster times here. So we are going to see these guys towards the top of the field. Find out the crosses line 64.16. That's not going to put him amongst the mix at the front end of the field. But I think we're going to see something special from these guys here down the back of the field. So Ando using the toe of Night King. Perhaps he's going to go for a move at some point just to get himself some clear air. I think he should, and I think he will. No, thinks better of it. Doing the polite thing and allowing him to continue on as they go through Mulsanne corner, and Night King's a little bit wide, which allows Ando through. He's purple once again, but only by 200ths. We'll drop down again to Daddy. Goes through Sector 3. He's purple by 1.5 seconds, so he is well up the road from Ando as far as lap time is concerned at the moment. And MJ Scatters goes through that sector 0.064 up on the fastest time. So currently Daddy leading the way on lap time. Ando currently with the second fastest lap time so far through this lap. 0.202 up once again through that sector. So he's not finding a chance to gain any time on Aussie Hypnotic, who currently has the fastest time on the leaderboard, and 1.2 seconds, so 2/10 lost there for Daddy through that sector as well. We'll drop back to MJ Scatters, aka the shotgun. Goes through sector 4. We didn't quite see that there, so we didn't actually see how far ahead or behind he was there. Perhaps he wasn't ahead at all, in fact. I think that may be the case because he hasn't set a lap yet, so if it's not purple, it's not going to show. So coming around the Porsche curves now, Ando 787, aka the captain, flying through there. Look at the lean on that car as it goes through those corners. Absolutely pushing the limits around here. So no one with a sub 4 minute lap time. Sorry, I lie. Aussie Hypnotic with a 3:58.091 at the moment. So looking to beat that is Ando 787, aka the captain. He crosses the line. How fast does he go? 0.3 faster. So provisional pole for Ando 787. Daddy. Oh, he spun it out of the final corner. Just reverse across the line. No. Oh no. Oh, he's going to go for another flyer. MJ Scatters gets into third position on the leaderboard. So it looks like we're going to see Daddy go for another flying lap here. So he's going to take off and get the biggest run up to the start finish line as he possibly can and start another flying lap. So it looks like he had time for 2 in a row here. So he's going to head around once again. So going for another flying lap here is Daddy, one of our favourites. It looks like there may have been a bit of contact there between Daddy and Cosmic Spirit. Unsure, but we won't worry about that for now. We've got Ando on another flying lap. He's about to go through Sector 2. Let's see what sort of time he's putting in. How does it compare to his first lap? He's 0.8 up, so we're looking at a much faster lap this time around. MJ Scatters coming down to the first chicane as well, so we'll see him go through Sector 2 here, and we'll see where he ends up coming through. A little bit slidey through there, a little bit hot into the chicane, so I don't think he's going to be ahead too much. Whoa, with a 3.5 second penalty for that one, and he's a second down in his time, so this lap I think is a complete write-off for our championship leader, so he's going to have to settle for third at best. Ando, meanwhile, coming up to Mulsanne corner. We're going to see how far ahead he is through the following straight as he enters Sector 4. See how fast he goes. So down to Mulsanne corner, the brake discs glowing red. A little bit sideways on exit, that'll be the tyres coming into play. He's 1.3 seconds up on his fastest time. That is huge. He's going to go well faster here. This could be a 3:55, you know. .3 as he enters Sector 5, I believe. So through the final sector we go. I'm actually unsure. I think there may be a another sector through the next section of the track. I'm unsure. But through goes Ando. And we'll look back at Daddy here. Currently 14th on the leaderboard. It looks like he has improved his times so far. We'll see how he goes coming out of... Oh, what's that corner? That's Indianapolis. He's 0.9 up, so he may unseat Aussie Hypnotic for that second front row spot for this race. Let's see here. Aussie Hypnotic gets off the racing line, allows Daddy through, does not want to give him a tow whatsoever. And fair enough too, because this is looking dangerous for Aussie Hypnotic here, and this could even push MJ Scatters down to P4 on the grid. So, Daddy coming through the Porsche curves. Here we go then. Sweeping it left and then sweeping it right. He looks like he's down on his time here, so that's no good. We do not like that whatsoever. Admittedly, his time would have been absolutely flying through this section, so all we had last time was a mistake coming out of the final corner, so let's hope that doesn't happen again. Coming up to the Ford chicane. And he goes left and then right. Coming up to the final chicane of the lap. Hard on the anchors, left and then right once again. Exits onto the Astro. Across the line he goes. How fast is he going to go? He goes P2 and 0.046 in it. Wow. There is nothing in that gap there. So Ando and Daddy, Captain and Daddy go front row. As we almost expected coming into this race, Aussie Hypnotic takes an impressive third over MJ Scatters, the point leader for the championship. So that'll do a lot to upset the apple cart here and potentially allow Aussie Hypnotic to score some very, very good points today. So that's great news for the Chevrolet driver. A couple of celebratory donuts there for him there. Slappers as well with an impressive qualifying in P5 there in the Volkswagen Beetle. So good news for him. We'd love to see it. So who have we got yet to cross the line? Looks like the top 3, top 4, 5, 6, 7. All of the top 10, I think, have finished their flying laps. I think it's because we have someone in the pits that we're going to see the qualifying timer come to an end. So while we wait for that, very interesting qualifying session. Good to see Ando and Daddy at the top of the field. Aussie Hypnotic with a very impressive P3 on the grid. That'll be huge for him, and hopefully with a good start he may be able to even crack into the top 2. So the 4 drivers, or even 5 drivers, who we could expect to run away with this. So Slappers, MJ Scatters, Aussie Hypnotic, Daddy, and for Captain Ando. We're potentially looking at a 5-way battle throughout the entirety of the race. So it is soft and medium tyres required. So we're probably going to see all 5 of those guys starting on the softs. Looking out for strategy changes as the race goes on. Lucky for P2 there, I disagree wholeheartedly. I think that was a cracking lap and you're unlucky not to get P1, to be completely honest. So, very well done to you. Sorry, I'm too slow. That's absolutely not true. P13 for Cosmic Spirit down there. He'll look to make his way back to the front of the field as the race goes on. But we move on to the starting grid. So we've got Ando, P1, and Daddy in P2. MJ Scatters, the championship leader, in P4 behind Aussie Hypnotic there. And Slappers in P5 in the Volkswagen Beetle. So even though not the best car around this track, he's still managed to make it work and get himself up there into the upper positions. So we'll get on board then with Aussie Hypnotic. In fact, we'll get on board with Scatters here, because this could prove very interesting. A great start for Scatters there as the lights go out. Aussie Hypnotic splits the pair of the leaders. That Corvette rocketing off the line. So we're looking here At an interesting first corner, Daddy goes through cleanly, hard onto the brakes they go into the first chicane. Is there going to be contact further back down the field? Everyone makes it through very cleanly, it seems. A little bit wide there from Rugworth, I think, on exit, but Daddy makes a clean break. Aussie Hypnotic in tow, and Ando in P3. So, not too much has changed here, but the one who is a little bit out of luck for that one is Slappers in P7. So, he's dropped back 2 positions there. So he'll be looking to make those back as quickly as possible. On the other side of the coin, though, Cosmic Spirit from 13th up to 8th place in the matter of a number of corners. So that's an excellent start for the Aston Martin driver. He's copped himself a penalty there, though, for going wide at Tetra Rouge. But a good start for him nonetheless. So we move ahead to Daddy, closely followed by Aussie Hypnotic. So these two have made a little bit of a breakaway to Ando behind, 1.5 seconds or thereabouts. And Ando's copped himself a 1.5 second penalty as well that may affect him as the race goes on. But Ando needs to get his act together and catch up to these two drivers, otherwise they're going to pull away because that slipstream is everything around here. At 1.6 seconds, Aussie Hypnotic is just pulling away at the moment. That'll be absolute murder on Ando's eyes at the moment. He'll be very frustrated by that, but 2 seconds the gap now. Ando with every chance to pull it back as the race goes on. Any mistakes from these two drivers will be immediately punished by the captain. MJ Scatters down in P4, so no position changes for him, or no net gain or net loss. Closely followed by Rugworth. So we talked about Rugworth a little bit early doors, about his consistency over the course of the season. Currently sitting in P5, so a very good start for him. And if he keeps this position, he could put himself in very good stead for the championship. Whoa, into the back of MJ Scatters he goes, and they both go wide through that corner. So Rugworth a little bit late on the brakes, perhaps missing his brake marker. Slappers is now going to be all over the back, and we see Carnage further back as well. Let's see if we can catch that. So we'll jump back a little bit here. Let's see what happened to Cosmic Spirit on the exit of Mulsanne Corner. So on the outside of Fine Doctor, gets on the gravel a little bit, goes a little bit deep there, gets it sideways on exit, but manages to gather it up and keep it off the wall, importantly. That's huge there. So back at the top of the field, a little bit of jostling for P1 here between Daddy and Aussie Hypnotic. The gap to Ando now 4 seconds. That is unbelievable. So these guys are making a clean break here and are not going to let anything get in the way of them. This is very impressive from these two drivers here, especially to be pulling away from someone like Ando. MJ Scatters now, having taken P3 away from the captain. So into the Porsche curves they'll come. No chance of a move going into here, so they're going to be nice and single file through here. Ando leading them, MJ Scatters rather, leading them through. They need to lose as little time as possible, so it may even be in his best interest here for Ando to sit behind MJ Scatters. Although, of the two drivers, if one of them, if I was to rely on one of them to catch the two drivers ahead, I'd probably be putting Ando in front, considering he was on pole position at the beginning of the race. The only person to out-qualify Daddy, who currently leads the way, currently sitting in P4. Daddy crosses the line. He's actually pulled a 1.2 second gap to Aussie Hypnotic through the Porsche curves and the Ford chicane. So now Aussie Hypnotic might be in a little bit of trouble without that slipstream from the from V Papa AT in front of him. So he's going to have to push a little bit harder here if he wants to get back in this. Although he's not out of the race by any means. Still in P2, although he does drift a little bit wide there. Through Tetra Rouge he goes. We've had a disconnect down there for Chicamac. So some technical difficulties for the Porsche driver. Unfortunate. But we've still got a race going on. The gap between Aussie Hypnotic and Ando. Now 5 seconds. So that position has changed. Let's see if we can catch that position change. No. Already been and gone. So, the captain in P2, MJ Scatters in P4, sorry, and in P3. So Gonna stay line astern here as they come into the first chicane. Nice and clean, nice and tidy. It looks like there may have been an issue there for Chickamak, perhaps more than just a disconnect. But we'll deal with that later. That can be left to the stewards after the race to deal with. So Ando now just working on the gap to Aussie Hypnotic in front. Currently sitting at 5 seconds, so hasn't changed too much over the course of the lap. It was sitting just under a little bit before. Looks like maybe the Corvette having a little bit more pace on the straights than that Aston Martin. Aussie Hypnotic now 2 seconds adrift of the leader, Daddy, in the Aston Martin. Pulling back a little bit of time on the straights, but it's not going to be enough, I don't think. Looking pretty good though as at P2 as it sits. And pulling a 5.5 second gap even to Ando behind. So as long as he can keep it clean, he stands to have a good result here at Le Mans circuit. So moving a bit further down the field, we've got Fine Doctor all over the back of Rioff and the BMW, going tooth and nail it seems against one another, although that BMW pulling away considerably on the straight there. Some great straight line speed from that car. And Night King putting a little bit of pressure on Chops in the Supra. He is in slipstream range, so this is good for the Volkswagen driver. It's something that you want to see. Squirrel there from Fine Doctor as they come out of that particular corner. I've got to get that name right. I've got to get the name of that corner right. It's an important corner. Very important. So I can see if we have that image still available. Back to that one. Jump back up a bit further up the field. Slappers mate, unfortunately, 4 seconds adrift of MJ Scatters and Ando in front of him. Look at that corner, it was Arnage, that's right. So that's one I've got to remember. So through the Porsche curves they go into the Ford chicanes. So P3 and P4, Ando and Scatters still all on top of each other. Nothing separating them, although now, as they come through this part of the track towards Tetra Rouge, they have pulled out a little bit of gap there, although we've seen MJ Scatters close right up onto Ando there as we go through. And the gap to Aussie Hypnotic, crucially, down to less than 4 seconds. But the gap to Daddy still remains to be increasing between Aussie Hypnotic and Daddy himself, and we're looking at a net gain of potentially 0 between Ando and Daddy at the moment. So Daddy just running his own race, managing to pull away a little bit as it goes on. So just putting in his own laps up here in P1, working away at the clock, at the track, at the car. Keeping it nice and consistent, no mistakes. He has got a penalty there, but it probably won't affect him too much, as we've seen. Something just burns off as the race goes on. So going up to the second chicane here on the Mulsanne straight. Little bit of a mistake through there, not quite what you want to see, so that's going to lose him a fair bit of time there, I think. Yeah, you see the gap delta coming down, less than 2 seconds now between himself and Aussie Hypnotic. That's going to really hurt Daddy there. That's going to be very important to his race, especially if Hypnotic gets back into slipstream, and that'll give Aussie Hypnotic here a huge bit of extra motivation to keep pushing and gain. We'll see what happens. He's not quite within slipstream range yet, but we know the straight line speed of that Corvette is very, very quick. So it could serve to really aid him in his goal of getting P1 in this particular race. Not someone who we necessarily expected to be in the mix, Aussie Hypnotic. We knew he'd potentially hang with these guys for a fair bit of the race, but he's actually outperforming Ando and MJ Scatters at the moment. So an excellent race so far for the Chevrolet driver. Running through Indianapolis up to Arnage. There we go. Got the corner right this time. Through they go. 1.2 seconds separating Daddy and Aussie Hypnotic. Slowly increasing as they go along the straight. Perhaps it will start coming down as the Corvette starts building a bit of speed. But perhaps a slightly better exit there for Daddy out of the Arnage corner. And that gap between Aussie Hypnotic and Ando consistently sitting at about about 4 seconds. But as they come through the Porsche curves, again, we're seeing it drop down a little bit here. So perhaps Aussie Hypnotic not quite being able to handle the curves, or perhaps the car not behaving as it should around that section of the track. Maybe even a tyre disadvantage. We don't know. We haven't seen them yet. We're yet to. We'll find out as the race goes on. 4 seconds the gap remains, so no time lost there for Aussie Hypnotic. Perhaps a bit of an issue there for Ando, as he did lose a bit of time coming through the Ford chicanes. Gap to MJ Scatters now just over slipstream range, so potentially looking at issues here is the point leader. He does, as much as he has a huge lead at the moment on the championship standings, he does need points here, so every point is going to count for that driver, especially if they're over Ando or Daddy. So we'll move back down the field a little bit. We've still got a couple of guys bunched up down here. Slapper's made with a mistake at some point, dropping him down to 8th, 9th place even from P5. So he's had a spin at some point. Not what you want to see, but nothing that can be done about it once it's done. So he's just going to have to work his way back up the field as best as possible. All over the back of Fine Doctor here. Actually goes around the outside at the exit of Tetra Rouge. Jumps in ahead and Fine Doctor tucks in behind into the slipstream. We'll see if that gap can be pulled out a little bit as they come through the chicane, number 1 chicane on the Mulsanne straight. Looks like Fine Doctor going to go for a move into the chicane even. So they're going to go side by side here as they come into the chicane. Fine Doctor later on the brakes, into the chicane he goes, and the move is made. Very good move there from him in the West liveried Subaru WRX. But now that puts Slappers in the hot seat here. He's got the slipstream down to the 2nd chicane. Is this going to provide an opportunity for Slappers to get through and get ahead of the Subaru driver permanently? No, he gives him a bump draft there. So apparently not interested in getting by at this stage, given the fighting that's been going on so far. Has a little look there on the inside, but doesn't make any serious move going into that chicane. Back into the slipstream once again as they come towards Mulsanne corner. Is he going to go for a move here, or is he going to stay behind once again? Jump on board with the Subaru driver. Looks like Slappers backs out of it a little bit there, allows him to go through cleanly and take the racing line. So Slappers now, it seems, only interested in gaining time, not worried about jostling for position at all here. Potentially the smarter move, as we are barely a quarter of the way through the race. We'll see if that pays dividends for him as they continue on. Up the inside he goes here. We're going to see a move made here by Slappers through the right-hander into Indianapolis. Wow, that was a mouthful.
hangs around the outside of Fine Doctor and gets through into the braking zone of Arnage, well clear of the Subaru driver. So go through, and that's position made for Slappers Mate with a 1 second advantage now as well. So moving back up towards the top of the field, Aussie Hypnotic has brought the gap down to Daddy in front of him by a small margin, both with penalties now, so 2.5 seconds there for Daddy and 1 second or thereabouts for Aussie Hypnotic. 3.7 seconds the gap back to Ando, so just keeping that gap at a constant at the moment, it seems. So doing well to hold his form together. I'm just waiting for a mistake from either of these two drivers, or potentially the opportunity to undercut them. We're unsure exactly how many laps these guys are expected to get out of a set of soft tyres, but I'm thinking we may be seeing a 6-lap stint, followed by a 6-lap stint, followed by a 1-lap stint on the medium tyre. But we'll see how the strategies go. Some guys may opt for the one-stop strategy, so halfway through make the switch over to the mediums, or the softs may even last them all the way to the end. Unsure as of yet, but we're into lap 5 and we haven't seen a pit stop as of yet, so we'll see what these guys decide to do. I do know, however, the pit stop on this track does lose you quite a lot of time, so I think that the one stop may be the optimum strategy around here, depending on how far you can get on the soft tyres. The tyre will be worth quite a lot of time around a lap here. We continue on. The gap's remaining fairly constant. The gap between Aussie Hypnotic and Ando has increased once again to over 4 seconds, and Daddy now 1.7 seconds clear of Aussie Hypnotic. Also to be considered, 2.3 seconds now the gap between MJ Scatters and Ando. So everybody kind of clearing off and forming their own space, just trying to put laps in as it sits and catch the guy in front of you, close that gap, or pull away from the guy behind, as it were. We won't see much action between these drivers until they start making their stops later on in the race. A bit further back though, Rioff now with a small gap to Rugworth behind in the Lexus, but not quite enough to make something of it. A little bit wide there from Rioff in the Red Bull BMW, which puts Rugworth into the slipstream. So we'll have a look on board here and see if Rugworth is going to be close enough to go for a move into Mulsanne corner. I don't think he is, but he may get close here, given that he is within 5/10 of the BMW driver. Is he going to brake early enough though? That's the question. Has he compensated for the slipstream? Gets a little bit sideways through Mulsanne corner and allows Rioff to pull away there as they exit onto the second straight. Down a bit further once again to Slappers in the Beetle, currently with a decent gap either side of it, so nothing to worry about too much for the BMW driver, just putting his laps in. Looking ahead to Daddy, has dropped 2.5 seconds back to Aussie Hypnotic behind. So I don't know where that happened. We missed it on the replay, unfortunately. But that is a huge gain for Aussie Hypnotic there. As well as Ando, who's caught up Aussie Hypnotic by perhaps 1.5 seconds. So that's made a difference. So 2 seconds, or 2.5 seconds, separating every driver in the top 4. And then from 4th down to 5th, we're looking at a 16-second gap. And the important driver behind that 16-second gap is Rugworth. So Rugworth, the man in P2 on the championship leaderboard at the moment. Every point counts for this driver, and Ando and Daddy are the ones who can unseat him from that P2 position given their current positions. So he stands to lose the most out of this race, it seems, at the moment, given his current standings on the leaderboard. But we'll see how the race pans out. There's plenty of time for things to change. Plenty of time for other drivers to make mistake. We've actually got some of our first drivers into the pits, having used nearly 70 litres of fuel after 5 laps. We're looking at a fuel stop for everyone here, as well as a potential tyre change. So it looks like Ando there has gone from soft tyres to soft tyres once again after 5 laps. So my guess will be that his strategy is 2 5-lap stints, maybe one of them 6 laps if possible, and then a 2 or 3 lap stint on the medium tyres at the end. So that puts him out in a little bit of traffic here. I think Aussie Hypnotic, crucially, is out on the medium tyres, so he's going for that 1 stop by the look of things, with 8 laps to go. So an interesting strategy call there from the Chevrolet driver. We'll see if it pays off for him. I don't know if it will. It's an interesting call. We'll see how that goes for him. Chop's now making a move on Aussie Hypnotic on the Mulsanne straight as they head down towards the first chicane. So they're side by side coming down. Who's going to be the later of the late breakers here? Chop's on the inside, gets out of it and allows Aussie Hypnotic through to take the racing line. So smart driving from the Toyota driver there, allowing the faster driver to take the racing line and pull him on through. .4 now, the gap between Hypnotic and Rugworth. So we're looking to close that gap and get in and get ahead of the 2 drivers in front of him, get himself some nice clear track. Chop's now in the slipstream, pulling right up to the back of the Chevrolet. Now that is important to keep him close and keep him away from Ando, because as soon as Ando gets a sniff of that slipstream, that's going to pull him right up close to Aussie Hypnotic here. Down towards the Mulsanne corner for Aussie Hypnotic now. A little bit deep through there, which allows Chops through and allows Ando, the captain, to crucially sneak up the back of it. So Ando now in the slipstream, and I think it's only a matter of time before the Aston Martin driver goes for a move on these 2 cars and gets through and gets ahead. So Aussie Hypnotic going for a move on Chops here, looking to go through and retake P5, although Chop's not making it particularly easy for him, and this is just going to bleed time out of these guys and lose them plenty of time to the leaders in front. What's important here is that they undercut the guys ahead of them, particularly Daddy, and get themselves ahead and into track position. But given the mistakes that have been made on this lap, I don't see that happening. So crucially now, Daddy with his 2.5 second penalty still coming through the Ford chicanes, Porsche curves up to the final section of the track. Into the pits he goes, hard onto the brakes for the pit chicane, and then he comes on the soft tyres, 17 litres of fuel remaining. Let's see what he does. He had a 10-second gap to Scatters behind him. Scatters has saved a little bit of fuel over the... what kind of driver is it? Descendant driver? Don't know. In any case, the fuel difference there between Daddy and Scatters is going to prove important. That could potentially bring down the gap by a considerable margin, about half a second, thereabouts. Although I think given it was a 10-second gap going into it, probably not going to be enough. So, there we go. There's Ando and Aussie Hypnotic. Importantly, Ando ahead of Aussie Hypnotic. And they come out and they come past the pits. Gap's going to be about 3.5 seconds as they come into the first chicane. So that's very important for Daddy's race. He's managed to survive the undercut. Luckily for him, there was a couple of serious mistakes from the drivers behind him on their outlap. And now he's just got to put in a good couple of laps here. It looks like he went from soft to soft also. So going for the 661 that we mentioned earlier. So 2-stop strategy. So Aussie Hypnotic here may be in the best position to challenge for the race. Although he is losing time to Ando in front of him. And he's got himself a 1-second penalty there as well for exceeding track limits. So it's very important for him to keep in touch with the drivers in front of him because they're going to lose out in a pit stop later on, although he may need to pit again as well for fuel. So this is going to be a very interesting race as it continues on. Into the first chicane of the Mulsanne Straight. Another thing to note, 6 seconds is the gap back to MJ Scatters there in P4. There's something to watch out there. Watch out for there. The championship leader will be looking to have his say in regards to these drivers at some point. We'll keep an eye on the gaps between them. So Daddy, as we know, on the fresher rubber, which will make a difference to him as he continues on. Just going to run back through the field a little bit, look at the gaps between drivers. Nothing too crazy going on here at the moment, although, interestingly, oh, there we go, there he is. Look at the straight line speed difference there between the Lexus behind and the VW in front. The Lexus absolutely monstering the VW on the straight. Got himself within slipstream range. And then got the slipstream, was catching him even faster. Absolutely crazy from those guys. Rugworth in that Lexus. Looking to pull some time on the VW in front of him. Bit of a battle going on back here, as well as Mickes comes under pressure from Fine Doctor once again. Fine Doctor looks to the inside as they come up from Mulsanne corner, thinks better of it, gets on the brakes a little bit early. Does Mickes go a little bit deep? No, he stays ahead. So good driving there from the Mazda driver to retain that position, but he's not out of slipstream range yet. He might just about be though. Fine Doctor not quite able to stay in touch at the moment. We've also got a little bit of pressure here from Night King behind. Same gaps either side here. So it's Mazda versus Subaru versus Volkswagen. I'm very interested to see how this one turns out. Back up the front though, Aussie Hypnotic has seriously fallen behind Ando here, and he is slowly falling into the clutches of MJ Scatters behind. This will be that medium tyre disadvantage that he's given himself here that will not be allowing him to keep up with the guys in front. What he may have to do now is box early and get back onto some softs for the remainder of the race, but he chooses not to. He continues around again. Chevy not looking like it's in the best shape at the moment, losing time hand over fist at the moment. We'll see what he can do as the race goes on. We have said already the pit stops are quite long in on this track, so that could serve to his advantage later on in the race. We've just had a position change there, I think. So we'll have a look back here and see what we missed. No change. Must have just been him crossing the line. Oh, when it does that. Anyway. And then 3.5 seconds adrift of Daddy. He's got him in his sights though. He can see the Aston Martin driver in front of him there. The red on that Gridline Racing livery is absolutely beautiful. There's absolutely nothing I could complain about with that colour. And the purple, as surprising as it seems to match up really well. You wouldn't think it would, but it does a really good job of accenting that colour, especially the front splitter with the white around it. Looks really good, and obviously matches the number on the side and all that sort of thing. The 787 there on the side, big fan of that style, the symmetrical design of it. Very, very cool. We'll have a little bit of a livery check now of the guys across the field. A little bit of a lag issue there for Daddy in front. So a couple of sponsors on the on the Daddy Mobile there. So we've got, as we know, the giant Papa on the side with Daddy on the rear quarter, Ocean Child Store on the back, and importantly on the top, Jim's gonna send it. So we know that Papa likes a little bit of a send every now and then, so not surprising to see something like that on his car. Something I do want to check though is what the decal on the right hand side door is, because I can't quite make it out as it drives by. We'll have a look at that at some point. Let's see if the other camera angle will help us at all. So you can see it's like a black circle there on this side. Here we go. Can't quite tell what it is, but it's there, most certainly. We'll move a little bit further down, check out the livery of Aussie Hypnotic in P3. Very busy livery, as we were saying a little bit earlier. NTCC style though. Made sure that he has shouted out the group there on the side. Big fan, as it seems, and a Holden badge on the front there too, as he gets a little bit sideway out of Arnage. I'm starting to learn the corners now. We've got the corners on point. Yes, a very cool looking livery. Very busy, as I've said, but it does look good. The colour scheme is very nice. And he is having a little bit of pressure come onto him by this man, MJ Scatters. He's been running this livery from day dot, number 88. The Aston Martin themed green and black livery. Very cool. Doesn't stand out too much, but sometimes that's what you want. You just want a little bit of subtlety on your livery. PlayStation logo on the front too. Important that we know what he's into. So a little bit further down, we'll move to Rioff in the BMW, running the same livery he's run all season. The Red Bull livery, very nice colour scheme with the dark purple. I do love the look of the BMW M6 GT3. It's a beautiful car, so aggressive, so wide. The vents, the headlights, everything on it just looks absolutely amazing. Oh, a little bit sideways out of the final corner there. That's going to allow Chops to sneak through here. Or maybe not. He allows Rioff to jump back on the racing line. What's going to happen here then? They're going to go side by side into the first chicane, are they? Let's see. Does Chops go for a move? He thought about it. He definitely thought about it, but he was just a little bit too far back to make anything happen. We'll stick with this battle for a little bit before we move on to some more livery checks. We're going to have to keep an eye out as well for MJ Scatters chasing down the car of Aussie Hypnotic in front of him. So here's where I think it might happen. Chops now onto the straight in the slipstream with the faster car. Probably going to see him fly by here before we get to the first chicane. Down the straight leg. That gap is coming down with a vengeance. There we go. He's side by side and clean through before they even get to the braking zone. That was very impressive from the Toyota Supra. Not something you see very often. A full clean overtake before even entering the braking zone. Both cars back on the racing line. But now, Rioff in the driver's seat. He's now in the tow. What can he do from this position? He's considerably closer as well. So he's not going to have to wait around as much. Pulls to the side. The inside of the next chicane, crucially. He's not able to gain any more time here on the Supra. In fact, the Supra is pulling away once again. Wow. The Chops backs out of it and allows Rioff to take the line into the corner. And they go again. So perhaps a little bit of gamesmanship there. Maybe Chops looking to swing by on this straight and then try and get away before they get onto the following straight so that Rioff doesn't have a chance to respond. But we'll see how that happens. See how it plays out. So no, nothing doing there for Chops in the Supra. Sits behind Rioff for now. Doesn't make any moves, but This is an excellent opportunity once again to go for a move as they head down towards Indianapolis. So Chop's backing out of it once again. So it looks like he's content with just sitting behind Rioff at this stage. Not too worried about getting ahead. We'll jump back to the front a little bit. It looks like Ando's lost a bit of time to Daddy in front of him. So Daddy perhaps with the slightly better race pace out of these two drivers, it seems at the moment. He wasn't able to out-qualify Ando going into the main race, but he's not quite been able to keep with it here. There's Ando. So back down to Chops. We're going to check out his livery here. Oh, he's dropped a bit of time there to Rioff. Let's see if we catch what happened there. Oh, he's had an off at Arnage. Okay. That's interesting. So it's not something you want to see. So he's lost himself 2 seconds to the BMW driver. Maybe he can make that back up. We'll see. But at the moment, looks like he's stuck where he is for now. So rocking once again, as we've seen him do all season, the Castrol Edge black, red and green livery with a little bit of white there and the BP logo on the roof as well. Very nice livery, very classic livery. Exactly what you'd expect to see on a Toyota race car, really. So very respectable in that regard. Stepping down once again to Slappers in P7 in the Beetle. Rocking the Dirty Beetle NTCC Champ livery from last season. We succeeded in victory over the course of the season. He is coming under pressure, however, from Rugworth in P8. Someone who we've been talking about, trying to bring himself up to the top of the field and score himself some serious points. He's not looking like he's in the best position at the moment, but with the way he's going, he may be set for an improvement in position sometime very soon. All he has to do, I think, is stay in touch with Slappers as they come onto the Mulsanne straight. He is within slipstream range. He's got a better exit too on the power considerably earlier. Gap already coming down, and he's in the slipstream as well. That Lexus will have plenty of legs over the VW in front. We're probably going to see him move very similar to what we saw from Rioff and Chops earlier on, where the overtake was complete going onto the chicane. No, he goes for a bump draft and then backs off. Interesting. Not what we were expecting to see at all. Again, seeing the same tactics there, looking for the bump draft on Slappers in front of him. Looking to gain each other as much time as possible here. So Rugworth, it seems, not interested in passing at the moment. More worried about allowing Slappers to stay in front and gaining as much time as possible. I think that's a smart thing to do here. There's nothing like a handling car with a speed boost down the straight. There's nothing faster than it. You can get a slow car on the straights, down the straights quickly, but you cannot get a straight line speed car through a corner faster. So bump drafting is absolutely the way to go here if he wants to catch the guys in front of him. Although a mistake there from Slappers through Mulsanne corner allows Rugworth through, so that's changed the course of this race here. So we're going to see Rugworth going through into P7. He's probably going to have to start working on Chops in front of him now, or defending from Slappers behind. We'll see. But back on the topic of liveries, the Slappers goes up the inside into Indianapolis. Nice and clean. Oh, a little bit wide there for Slappers. And we've seen an incident there between Rugworth and Slappers on exit to Indianapolis, heading into Arnage. Looks like Rugworth's going to redress here and allow the reigning champion back through again, just for the sake of both of their races, although he did serve a penalty there, so it wasn't completely 100% selfless. We'll have a look once again on board. In goes Slappers up the inside and drifts a little bit wide. Really probably should have had a look there and made sure he knew where Slappers was. It was pretty clear, I think, where the Volkswagen driver was, so I think you're probably putting the blame on Rugworth for that, but hard to call without seeing all angles. So I'll leave that one up to the stewards, I think. Moving further down, Night King. Another one with a very cool livery that we've been eyeing up a fair bit lately. Although with a 5.6 second penalty at the moment, he's really making a rod for his own back here. So the red and black of the Star Wars / Red Bull livery. I'm sure this is different to what we've seen in the past from this man, because I recognise the Red Bulls and I recognise the colour scheme, but I don't remember seeing the Star Wars trivia on the car. But always happy to be surprised. Stepping further down, once again, Fine Doctor in the Subaru, having dropped down to 10th place after a bit of a tussle with, I think it was Mickers, who's now down in P12 in the West McLaren style livery on the Subaru. Interesting choice of livery, given that the this car was never involved in that team, but it's a cool livery nonetheless. Everyone does like the colour scheme and the style, so nothing wrong with it unless you're against smoking, which some people are, and that's fine. But the West livery was always one of the best liveries in all of Formula 1 history, so you got to really respect it being on a car like this in a GT3 class. P11 now, Chef Todd in the Beetle, rocking the Too Easy Racing livery, very old school style wood desk looking livery with a two-toned black for the roof and kind of shoulders of the car. As he goes wide there into the first chicane, very, very deep, late on the brakes, slides it through and over the track limits. We'll see if he gets a penalty for it. So it looks like he got away with that one. We'll go a bit further down to Mickers in the Mazda, rocking a new livery this week. I think last week he was rocking the, or not last week, the week before, he was rocking the blue and yellow of, what brand was it? I forget which brand it was, but it was a V8 brand. I think this may be another V8 style brand, the Techno livery, probably inspired by the V8 supercars. Very cool style there and colour scheme on that car. Down in P final, Cosmic Spirit rocking the Aston Martin. So perhaps a strategy pull gone wrong, or a couple of mistakes this race that have ruined his race. Some people just do not do well with the Circuit de la Sarthe, but perhaps he can fight his way back to somewhere further up the field. Perhaps he's made all his pit stops and other people are yet to. Those pit stops are worth a lot of time, as we know, about 20 odd seconds. So if someone has to take fuel on board, such as Mick is, for example, that could bring them back into the clutches of this man if this man's already good on fuel and good to go to the end. Crucially, end of lap 11, Ando is in. So he's done 6 laps on this stint, so he's only going to have to do 2 laps on his final stint on the mediums. So through he goes. Interesting choice of wheels there. He's running NP RPF 1s, which is not something you expect to see on a race car such as this. So not much fuel to go in, just a bit of a splash and dash, gets himself up to nearly 40 litres of fuel. He actually comes out ahead of MJ Scatters there. So very impressive there for the Aston Martin driver. So doesn't lose a position with his pit stop. Does lose himself about 20 seconds to Danny in front though. So as we were talking about before, about a 20-second deficit. About a 20-second pit loss time there. So as we were discussing earlier, that's fairly accurate. So something to watch out for. So pretty much now, I think we're looking at a sewn up P2 here, and potentially if his outlap is fast enough, and if he overcuts by enough, or undercuts rather by enough, he could overtake this man upon exit to the pits, Daddy, in front of him. So 23 seconds to the gap is the gap. Watch that gap as it comes down. We're going to need... We're going to be seeing probably about 30% fuel, or 30 litres rather, going into the tank of Daddy in front. Not sure how much fuel he's on now, but I suspect he's getting close as far as fuel numbers is concerned. Although he may have gone for a full fill on the last stop, just to try to get himself home without having to refuel at this particular stop. So, 23 seconds the gap, medium versus soft, or fresh mediums rather, versus worn softs. Does Ando have what it takes to complete the undercut, make it work? I feel like he may gain 1 or 2 seconds here if it's a faultless lap for both drivers. But, given the length of lap and the tyre disadvantage that Ando now finds himself on, he's probably only barely going to be faster than Daddy in front of him, putting in laps on the soft tyres. So a step further back down to MJ Scatters, currently 5 seconds back from Ando in front. Aussie Hypnotic in P4, crucially on a one-stop strategy. So when MJ Scatters pits, he is going to inherit P3 here as long as he can stay this close. And then he'll have a 4-second buffer, or 3 seconds rather, to the driver behind him, or who will be behind him when we come out of that pit stop. So, keeping an eye then on the gap here. The gap still sitting at 23.3 seconds here between Daddy and Ando. Ando currently 5.6 seconds clear of MJ Scatters behind. I do believe MJ Scatters pitted at the end of lap 6. So he is most likely going to be pitting at the end of this lap. In fact, he has to pit at the end of this lap in order to take his compulsory mediums, as does Daddy. So let's see here and see what happens. I think this is a gap not far between from Daddy and Ando. I don't think we're going to see the gap change here. We're not going to see a successful undercut here, I don't think. I don't think Ando has done enough on this outlap. Aussie Hypnotic has pitted twice. Okay. Has MJ Scatters pitted twice? I don't think he has. Crucially, Daddy into the pits. Daddy with more fuel in the tank, or the same amount of fuel as Ando had when he entered the pits a lap previous. So, probably hardly any fuel going on board there for Daddy in front. So, probably not going to see a successful undercut here. Out he comes, yeah, well and truly ahead of Ando behind him. So it's going to be a 6-second gap or so between the two drivers here. Scatters not into the pits, so he goes around again, and Aussie Hypnotic, it looks like he will also be going around once again. No, Hypnotic goes into the pits. Interesting to see. The guys are discussing the logistics of the series while running the race. I feel like there's a time and a place, but anyway, I think best to air out the issues as you hear them or as you see them. Any fuel going in for Aussie Hypnotic? Yep, he does put a little bit in to get himself home. Probably a compulsory fuel stop there just to get him home due to the game's setup. And Chops there, sweeps around the outside, up the inside of the chicane, keeps the position, compromises his own exit though. Are we going to see Aussie Hypnotic fight back here? He's not quite close enough, it seems. Chops giving him plenty of room. And stays in front here, but Aussie Hypnotic now in the power seat. Looking ahead, 11-second gap between Daddy and Ando. So Ando's strategy has not paid off here, as it seems. MJ Scatters behind on the final lap. 6.2 seconds adrift of Ando in front with a 30-second lead over Rioff. Rioff, the big surprise for this race. 5 seconds clear of Chops up in P4. Chops in P5. This is huge for the race standings for these guys. Chops has been way down the points order for a lot of races so far this season. Currently just outside the toe of Aussie Hypnotic behind. Does he have a tyre advantage? Is he going to be able to stay in front? I don't know. Aussie Hypnotic now within 5/10 of the Supra driver. So this might be an opportunity for him to change the position here. Chops will be not wanting to give up this position at any point in the race, but he will have a chance to fight back as the lap goes on. So it's a long lap here at Circuit de la Sarthe. So Aussie Hypnotic takes the position away, goes up into P5. So this battle is going to rage on right to the end. We're looking at a 4-second gap now between Rioff and Aussie Hypnotic. We're probably not going to see a change in position there, but Chops is the one to watch here. Is he going to be able to fight back against Aussie Hypnotic? Is he going to be able to do something and gain himself that extra couple of points all the way at the end? Chops is on worn mediums, says Chicken Mac. I need you in the booth, mate. You're my stats guy. I need this. So Chops now in P6 on worn out mediums. Aussie Hypnotic on the fresh mediums, as we've seen him put on for this final lap. So there is a tyre advantage here, but not by much. Unsure about how many laps Chops has done on those tyres, but if it's enough to show wear, it's enough to make a difference. So still within slipstream range of Rioff in front of of Aussie Hypnotic in front of him. Looking for an opportunity here to get by. There's not a big speed difference between these two cars, so the slipstream is going to be all important here, but still 4/10 between the two drivers. So through to Indianapolis they go. Chops follows through the Chevrolet driver. Gap being created by Aussie Hypnotic here into Arnage, nice and early on the brakes, and onto the final straight before the Porsche curve. So the gap now almost at a second between these two drivers. So it looks like we're not going to see any changes here between these cars. But Daddy takes the checkered flag with a 13-second advantage over his nearest competitor of Ando. Ando coming through the final chicane here to take a deserved P2. Great consistent drive from the Aston Martin driver. And MJ Scatters with an excellent performance as well to take P3. Three of the drivers that we discussed taking some of the very, very upper level positions, doing exactly as we believe they would, and finishing up quite high up the field. So just the usual suspects, it seems. But Rioff, a name we don't usually see this far up the field, currently in P4 with a 2-second buffer to Aussie Hypnotic behind. He's coming through the final chicane now in the BMW to take P4. An excellent drive from the BMW driver. Across the line he comes. Aussie Hypnotic in 5th. Chops in 6th. A great finish for him. As we were saying, well up the field from what he's used to driving. Great work from the Toyota Supra driver. Rugworth now coming down towards the final chicanes, the Ford chicanes. The time is going to run out before he crosses the line. The Lexus driver takes P7. Slappers in P8. And Night King in P9. A little bit further down than he would have liked, but still makes the top 10. And Fine Doctor rounding out that top 10 as well. Wow. What a stonker of a race in the end. Pretty crazy there for Rioff and Chops to be as far up the field as they were, beating out Slappers, mate, for a start. One of the faster drivers in the field, for sure. Possibly not in the right car for the track, but still a driver to be reckoned with. So, V Papa AT, or Daddy, takes P1 with a total race time of 52 minutes and 11 seconds, with a 13-second gap to Ando in P2, aka the captain. So 3 Aston Martin V12 Vantages make up the podium there. MJ Scatters rounding out the top 3 with a 7 or 6 second gap back from Ando. So decent gaps between the front 3 drivers, but the usual suspects, as we say. Daddy taking another win over Ando, so I believe that's 2-1 between those two drivers for the season, as far as the 1v1 is concerned. So we've seen Ando win at Bathurst in particular. That was a huge race for the Aston Martin driver. We've now seen V Papa AT, or Daddy, win the race at Circuit de la Sarthe, or race 1 rather. We do have a reverse grid race to come. Another good showing that race was Aussie Hypnotic. Unfortunately strategized himself out of the race about halfway through. It looked like he was going to do a 1-stop, but unfortunately he did not, and ended up doing a 2-stop or potentially even 3-stop strategy. I don't know, because he stopped on the last lap and we were under the impression that he'd already done 2. So interesting strategy from the Chevy driver. A great drive for most of the race. Looks like he just strategized himself out of it. Rioff in P4, probably driver of the day there, I think. A great result for him. We didn't see too much of him over the course of the race, but to finish P4 is no mean feat in a field like this. Chops in P6, another candidate for driver of the day. Very consistent all the way through, almost no mistakes, and very well run from him. Rugworth in P7, that'll be good for his point tally. He needs that to try to keep his second place, although he's going to probably lose out here to Ando and Daddy in front for that second position. Slappers in P8, Night King P9, and Fine Doctor rounds out the top 10 with Mickers, Chef Todd, Cosmic Spirit, and Chickamak making up the rest of the field. We are about to get underway with the reverse grid race. So, having a look here, we've got Cosmic Spirit on the front and Chickamak in P2 after a disconnect last race. Renegade also without a qualifying time technically. So, starting at the back, we're going to have a look from onboard Daddy's car right at the very back here and see how this start goes. All the lights are red. Here we go then, and lights out, lights go green rather, and away we go. So a good start from Daddy here. The field is bunching up quite a lot. Looks like a pretty poor start there from Night King in the middle of the field, holding a few drivers up here. We're going 3 wide into the first corner, or second corner rather. We've got Rioff wide there, comes back on the track, bit of a dangerous re-entry, and scatters his round at T2. A little bit of drama there. Slappers also goes round there. So we'll have to have a look at that one again. But Daddy and Ando have made their way up to 7th and 8th respectively. Let's have a look at this replay again. MJ scatters there in P9. Goes in, gets a little bit unlucky there, and gets turned around by Night King behind him there. So a little bit of movement there. I don't know if that was Night King's fault, but... and then Slappers there as well, gets turned around also. So up the front of the field, we are looking at Rugworth alongside Cosmic Spirit here. Lexus versus Aston Martin going into the first chicane of the Mulsanne Straight. Lexus does the switchback there, heading into the corner, and Cosmic Spirit is wide on entry. They're bunching up a little bit. Rugworth unfortunately not able to get off the power quick enough to slow down and avoid contact there with Cosmic Spirit, but manages to keep it both on the straight and narrow. No penalties for either drivers, which is good news. Cosmic Spirit weaving across the track to break the toe to Rugworth behind, trying to not allow the Lexus driver to catch up to him and get by, leading into these next chicanes. So, Constantina here, we've got Rugworth alongside Cosmic Spirit here, actually goes ahead into the chicane, and we've got Fine Doctor behind in the Subaru. Goes a little bit wide on the second half of the chicane there. Goes off wide and actually loses out to Aussie Hypnotic there. We've got a bit of contact between the two of them as well. We'll have a look back at that there. But that was a very interesting way through the corner. So, through the chicane he goes. We got wide there from Fine Doctor. Comes back on the track, goes a little bit wide there. Gets it loose. Oh, there we go. So he got the tail loose and had to overcorrect. And unfortunately, that put him into the side of Aussie Hypnotic. Up the front there, and we've had another off. Oh wow, Ando involved, as well as I think Fine Doctor. Let's have a look back here and see what happened. Ando in 4th, goes a little bit. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa! Fine Doctor misses his brake marker. You can tell he's not happy with himself there. as he comes back onto the track very slowly following that incident. So Ando, unfortunately demoted from 4th to 8th place through no fault of his own, ends up down a little bit further down the field. So, importantly here, Daddy has got through into P2. So as soon as Daddy is in the lead, we're going to expect him to run away with this once again. So Ando really, really needed to have the luck on the way through the mid-pack and hope that Daddy didn't in order to give himself a fighting chance at winning this race. But unfortunately for him, Daddy has ended up right at the top of the field in P2, looking to take advantage as Rugworth leads him through the Porsche curves. And Ando, on the other hand, currently down in P8, looking at making some progress on the guys in front of him, Night King and Renegade, who are currently battling on their way through here. Side by side, in fact, for Night King and Renegade there, as Renegade goes off, allows Night King through, and Ando sweeps around the outside there as well, taking advantage. Whoa, we've got a little bit of an issue here between Mickey's and someone. We'll have a little bit of a look back here, see if we can pick up exactly what happened. Cosmic Spirit into the pits. Mickey's down there in P13. Let's have a look-see and see if we can catch the issue in question. It looks like no. Looks like we're not quite going to see it. So I suppose, based on this and what we've seen, there was an off there somewhere that's caused him to lose a lot of time there. MJ Scatters as well, coming out of the pits after being turned around. Lap 1. Thankfully for him, he started on the medium tyres, so he's although he's lost time there, he's still technically in a legitimate position here that allows him to still gain on the rest of the field. He's got himself some clear air now, and he's onto the softer tyres, so gives himself every opportunity to catch up to the boys in front of him. So we'll jump up ahead. Daddy has got the better of Rugworth in P2. See if we can spot the overtake. No, we can't. So through the first chicane they go. How long, the question is then, how long can Rugworth hold on to Daddy for? He's right in the toe now. He's going to have to stick on him like glue. But it's the best position for Rugworth to be in right now, in the toe of the fastest driver on track at the moment. So this gives him an excellent opportunity to pull away from the guys in front and secure a second position in this double points race. And looking at it again, Rugworth going up the inside of Daddy here, currently second in the championship, or possibly not after that first race, but he takes a clean P1 there. Excellent job from the Lexus driver there. Let's have a look at that again, because that was awesome. So up the inside, Daddy gives him the space, sweeps across to take the racing line through the chicane. Excellent work from the Lexus driver. We love to see a bit of that, and it's not very often as well that you see someone go around the outside almost of Daddy into any corner. So excellent work there by Rugworth, the Lexus driver. Some good driving, some driving that we don't often get to see from the driver currently sitting in P1. So good to see that even in the midfield, or for a midfield driver, still managing to hang with the best and compete with the best, and with racecraft that is on point there. Great clean driving from both of these drivers through that section of the track. And they're side by side once again. Daddy in the lead, takes the inside, heading up to Indianapolis. A little bit of contact there from Rugworth as he tries to get back on the racing line. Daddy closes the door as they head through Indianapolis and up to... oh no, I've forgotten the corner. Arnage. Up to Arnage once again. So, through Arnage they go. A decent exit from both drivers. Rugworth in a good position here to use the toe from that Aston Martin in front of him to retain that second position, although he's letting Daddy get away here. He really is. This is dangerous for the Lexus driver. How does that happen? Is he saving fuel? What is he doing? He was in a prime position there, but he's absolutely let Daddy run away with this here. Daddy grazes the wall though on the way through the Porsche curves. Is that going to allow Rugworth to close up a little bit? It doesn't look like it. I love that little lean that the cars get on as they come through those corners. the body roll that little bit that you can just tell is aggressive enough to make it abundantly clear how hard those cars are pushing through that corner. You don't realise it when you're driving it, but those cars are right on the limit. So, further down the field, we're looking at Ando. Chops is into the pits, so now a 3.5 second gap between Ando and Aussie Hypnotic in front of him. All of these guys will be on the soft tyres, I imagine, given that they haven't stopped as of yet. The guys who have stopped already going for 2-lap stints, or those stopping on this particular lap anyway. Battle here between Rioff and Night King. Let's see if there's anything to be done here between these two drivers. Through Tetra Rouge we go, the S's. And through Rivage Tetra Rouge we go as well. I believe that's the name, Rivage. Unsure. A little bit wide there from Night King heading through that particular section of the track. He may cop a penalty for that, but he's still in the tow. There we go. There's that penalty we were talking about. In the tow of the Volkswagen in front. Can he pull it back? Can he get himself into position to take over that P5 as we come down this section of the track? Here we go then, Rioff having a better exit than Night King there. Looking to the outside as they come towards the second chicane. Which car has the legs in the straight line? It looks like the BMW might have it here, but he is on the outside. Does that put him at a disadvantage here? We'll get on board with Night King. As we head up towards this corner, he backs out of it, gets on the brakes early, and allows Rioff to take the racing line on the way through. Smart move there from Night King, not forcing the issue and allowing them both to save as much time as possible. And he's still in the power seat, still in the slipstream of the car in front, so gives himself an opportunity to make it work once again, coming down to Mulsanne corner. Although, as I say that, pulling away is the BMW driver a little bit here, managing to pull a bit of a gap and get out of slipstream range, it seems. A little bit deep there from Night King as well, but he gets on the power early enough, manages to make it work, and he's actually got himself back within slipstream range here. So that's excellent driving from the Volkswagen driver. So, as long as he's within the tow, puts himself in good stead to get into that 5th position as the race goes on. Looking ahead again, we've got a gap forming between Rugworth and Daddy in front. 2 seconds now the gap, with a 5.5 second gap back to Aussie Hypnotic and P3. So again, running a good race so far is the Chevrolet driver. But he's going to come under pressure very shortly from one captain behind him, Ando 787 in the Aston Martin. So, can we see a repeat of the last race? Will we see Ando take back that position from Aussie Hypnotic, or will Aussie Hypnotic have the pace this time around to hold on to his podium position? Into the Porsche curves he goes, followed closely by Ando. Cuts that corner very severely. That's a little bit brave, putting 2 wheels on the grass there, but he's made it work. Losing a little bit of time through this section to the Aston Martin, as we expect, given the Chevrolet's better straight line speed. Not using so much of the track limits there to get his car out on the exit. Coming up to the Ford chicanes now to finish lap 3, and into the pits goes Aussie Hypnotic, apparently doing 3 laps on the mediums. Touches the pit wall there, not quite what you want to be doing there. He's got 63 litres on board at the moment. Is that going to be enough to get him to the end? Looking on board now, Ando 8.8 seconds adrift of Rugworth in front of him. So Rugworth really in the power seat here as it sits to take the fight to the leaders in this double points race. So this could be huge for his championship hopes of keeping that 3rd position, because I think Daddy now has solidified P2 in the championship standings if this race finished as it was. But given the double points of this race and his good finishing position of race 1, Rugworth may retain P3 in the championship if he remains where he is for the rest of this race. And who's to say that he won't even challenge Daddy once again towards the end of the lap, and or the end of the race rather, and challenge for that P1 once again. We've already seen him make an overtake against our crowd favourite driver, but looking a little bit like it's unlikely at the moment for the Lexus driver, sitting at about 3 seconds clear of the, well, currently P2 on the leaderboard driver. And that gap behind to Ando is slowly starting to come down. It's very important that he continues on with consistent laps for the remainder of the race if he wants a chance of catching Rugworth, and he may have to hope that he's saving enough fuel here as well, because that could be an opportunity to jump Rugworth in the pits. Unsure if fuel will come into it here. We've seen someone come into the pits with about 60 litres of fuel left on board after 3 laps, so I think these guys should be good to go to the end without fueling up. We'll see how we go. Another thing that will come into it is, of course, tyre wear. We've seen what happens on a worn set of softs to these drivers. So perhaps if Rugworth wears out his tyres faster than Ando here, we might see things change a little bit. So currently very little going on amongst the field, although I think we've actually seen a change in position here for Aussie Hypnotic. No, he pitted, didn't he? So now out in P6 with a small gap to Night King in front, so he'll be looking to clear this traffic and get himself back into P4 here, so that he's just behind Ando for when he does his pit stop. So this could work in Aussie Hypnotic's favour here if he gets past these drivers quickly enough, because he is on fresh, soft tyres. Gives him every opportunity to force a proper undercut on the cars in front of him. So if he can get this car working for him and get himself ahead, he may be in a very good position come the end of this race. So we'll follow on board here as he goes for a move on Night King as they head up towards the Porsche curves. Nice clean move, easily around the outside there of the Volkswagen driver. Into the Porsche curves we go. So no response there from Night King, unable to do anything against the man with fresh rubber on the car. So Hypnotic will now be setting his sights on Rioff in front of him. So the gap currently sitting at 1.1 seconds. Rioff into the pits, so that's exactly what Aussie Hypnotic needed. A little bit of clear track in front of him now. Through the final chicane he goes, a little bit sideways through there, needs to keep that under control. We head across the line to start lap number 5 here. So 4 laps to go, well 3 laps to go rather. 5, 6, 7, yes, sorry, I can't count. So heading through the first chicane here, Aussie Hypnotic, with pressure from Night King behind. So it looks like through that final section, Night King's made some serious ground on him. Hasn't let him get away. So 12 seconds, 12 and a half seconds rather, between Aussie Hypnotic and Ando in front of him. Important here that he closes that gap down a bit as the lap goes on if he wants to get that undercut on the drivers in front of him. So we can expect Ando, Rugworth and Daddy to be pitting at the end of lap 6. So that leaves Aussie Hypnotic here with 2 laps to put time in and undercut the guys in front of him, because they're going to be on worn out softs and he's going to be on fresh softs, or he is on fresh softs rather. He's done 1 lap. This is lap number 2 for the Chevrolet driver on his fresh tyres. Starting to get slightly less fresh now, but they'll continue to help him against the drivers in front. He has brought that gap down a little bit. If you look at the delta, it was 12.5. Now 12.3. If he continues in that manner, he's going to gain about a second a lap. So this is an excellent position for Aussie Hypnotic to be in, and he is going to be one to watch when the pit stops happen for the drivers in front of him. So, another thing to note, Rugworth was 8 seconds ahead of Ando, now is only 5.5, and 6 seconds adrift of Daddy in front of him as well. So Daddy, with the pace on Lasaf, it seems, so far this evening, with no one seeming to be able to keep pace with him. So Ando will have eyes only on Rugworth here, and Rugworth has to work really hard, I think, to maintain that second position. He's going to start coming under pressure shortly once he sees that gap get down to about 3 seconds. That's when you start looking in the mirror and going, hey, he's actually quite close now. So that could be a problem for him. But as long as he doesn't crack under the pressure, and if he keeps up a decent pace, I think he's going to have this P2 sewn up by the end of the race. 5 seconds, while it may not seem like a lot, is a lot to make up. That's going to be over 2 seconds a lap at the moment. So 4.5 seconds now the gap. We've seen it go from 5.5 at the start of the Mulsanne straight, now towards almost the end of the lap. So we're looking at maybe, how much has he taken that down by? Quick maths, about 1.5 seconds I reckon by the end of this lap. That'll be the gap that it's come down by. And 1.5 seconds a lap is not going to be enough to catch Rugworth for Ando. So it's going to be very close here for these guys. Depends when they pit as well. Perhaps Ando will go one more lap, you don't know. Or perhaps Ando will go one less lap. Perhaps that's his best chance here, actually, I think. I think Ando's best opportunity here is to go for an undercut. Even though he's going onto medium tyres, he needs to go for an undercut. Let's see what he does. Does he go into the pits? No, he goes around again. So he's just going to have faith in his raw pace here to get himself ahead of Rugworth, who is in front of him. So, crossing the line now, comes out of the final corner. 4.2 seconds the gap between himself and Rugworth. He managed to bring the gap down by nearly 2 seconds that lap. And that's exactly what he needs to do on the next two as well. 2 seconds a lap is the requirement for Ando. Although, given that it is most likely possible that he'll get within a second of Rugworth before they're halfway through the final lap, that puts him in slipstream range. And that makes a huge difference. So at that point, it becomes, oh, what's the word? Oh, it's a maths word. Oh. Maths word for just goes up and up and up. I can't believe I've forgotten this word. It's like my favourite word. X something. Anyway, gap down to 3.5 seconds. So, half a second has been taken out of Rugworth here over the start of this second to last lap, penultimate lap here at Circuit de la Sarre. Rugworth doing a good job here actually of maintaining the gap to Daddy. He's only lost about half a second over the last lap and a half. If that, I think he's lost no time over the last lap and a half. This is very impressive from the Lexus driver. And even more impressive is the performance of Ando behind. The fact that he's catching him, and by so doing catching Daddy as well, is excellent news for the Gridline Racing driver. So an awesome run so far. And also, further down, 13 seconds adrift of Ando. I believe he was 12 seconds adrift when he came out of the pits. I think he may overtake Ando here at the end of this stint. Given that he started on his softs a bit later, this could be huge for the Chevrolet driver, although he's getting very slidey through there. And Chop's still hanging on to the back of him here so far. Another person we probably need to check in on is Scatters down in P8, coming under pressure from Rioff in the BMW. Is Rioff going to be able to get by going into the second part of the chicane, or second chicane of the Mulsanne straight here? Yes, he is. Dives up the inside, holds it around the outside on the second half of the chicane, retains the inside line. The second half, oh, he's sideways! Whoa, that's not what you want to see, but he's lost it coming out of the chicane. And that's just the pressure and how hard it is to overtake someone like MJ Scatters Doesn't make it easy for you. Gives you the room you need, but it's simply not a simple thing to do to overtake that driver. So Rioff here, going through on the outside, a little bit wide, puts 2 wheels on the dirty stuff, gets it sideways on the power too early, overcorrects, and into the fence he goes. And around again even. Wow. So that's lost him a lot of time. He's had to turn it right around there. Very unfortunate way for the BMW driver to go. So he remains in 10th with a 25-second buffer to Renegade in behind him. So he's fairly safe in his top 10 position at the moment, so that'll be good for his points still. MJ Scatter's in P8. Showing his mettle and showing he is not a driver to be messed with there. 7th position. Slapper's mate. Not quite at the pointy end of the field tonight, it seems, but looking to put some pressure on Night King here. Coming to the important part of the race, though. Daddy into the pits with a 4.3 second gap to Rugworth. Rugworth has gained so much time on him at the end of this lap. Quickly through the pit entry there for Rugworth, and then we're down to Ando also coming into the pits. So, looking here, Daddy into his pit box. New set of tyres. Is he going to need to take fuel? Let's find out. He does take fuel. Has to take a small amount just to get home. Comes out with a clear lead over Aussie Hypnotic. Let's have a look now at Aussie Hypnotic. Does he come out ahead of Ando and Rugworth? No, he doesn't. Ando does not take fuel on board. Rugworth does and is forced to put fuel in. Aussie Hypnotic right onto the back of the two of them. This is going to be a 3-way battle for 2nd position as they come towards the end of the race. Ando and Rugworth both on medium tyres. Aussie Hypnotic on worn softs, but not as worn as you'd think. He did do 3 laps on the medium, so he's got plenty of life in those soft tyres. So if anyone's in the hot seat here, it's the Corvette driver. So looking to get by Rugworth there. Rugworth a bit too slow there for Aussie Hypnotic through that section of the track. So Aussie Hypnotic really has to clear Rugworth here if he wants a shot at Ando at any point in this race. This is the final lap. He's going to be forced around the outside there as Rugworth forces him to the outside, pushes him wide. Rugworth now into P4. Is he going to have a chance to have another go at Aussie Hypnotic further down the straight? What'll he do? He looks to the inside, has a look, shoots through into the first chicane of the Mulsanne straight. Back into P3 for the Lexus driver. So Aussie Hypnotic seemingly faltering under the pressure there a little bit. This is all allowing Ando to pull away. He is now 1.3 seconds clear of Rugworth behind. He has the fuel, he has the tyres. There is nothing that Rugworth has that Ando does not have. So it's looking like the only person with a shot of catching the Gridline Racing driver is Aussie Hypnotic, who is now in P3, who has once again exchanged places with Rugworth. Let's see if we can catch that on a replay. Around the outside on the exit, looks like he may have got a better exit out of the first chicane. Through they go, the second chicane, and start heading towards Mulsanne corner. So the gap now 1 second, so Aussie Hypnotic does have the pace over Ando here. He's got something in his locker. He looks like he's got enough of a gap over Rugworth to not worry about him going for a move into Mulsanne corner. 1 second the gap now, slowly coming down. It's going to be down to less than a second as they come into this corner on the soft tyres. Aussie Hypnotic, can he be later on the brakes? Possibly not. Adds a 10th to the time, but he comes through. Gap still hovering about 1 second. Rugworth gets it slightly wrong, loses time to Aussie Hypnotic. He's going to have to settle for 4th at best here, it seems, unless there's a mistake from Aussie Hypnotic or Ando when they start fighting later on in the lap. So 1.1 the gap, slowly closing down once again. That extra speed on the straight for the Chevrolet, allowing him to gain up a little bit of time here. Don't forget, this is the final lap of the final race of round number 10 in the National Touring Car Championship. Aussie Hypnotic on worn soft tyres. Ando in P2 on fresh medium tyres. Aussie Hypnotic now with a penalty. That's going to seriously affect him towards the end of the race. I don't think that he's going to have it in his locker to get by the Gridline Racing driver. He serves his penalty now as they head onto the straight before the Porsche curves. This is going to give Rugworth a chance here. Is Rugworth going to have a chance to go through? He's got a 2-second penalty as well, so he's going to have trouble staying in front if he does get in front. This is potentially going to look like a default 2nd position or 3rd position for Rugworth, for Aussie Hypnotic regardless of whether Rugworth gets through. A real shame that Aussie Hypnotic could not get onto the back of Ando and challenge for that P2, but it looks like coming through and coming up to the Ford chicanes, V Papa AT, aka Daddy, our fan favourite driver, comes through the final set of chicanes, into the final corners, hard on the brakes, through the chicane, onto the main straight. 4.8 seconds the gap to Ando 787 in P2, so Daddy takes P1 and Ando takes P2 in both races this evening, and Aussie Hypnotic takes a deserved P3, Rugworth in P4, and Chops takes P4 from Rugworth as they cross the line, so Rugworth not able to wipe his penalty off quite fast enough, and he loses out to the driver behind. It looks like Slappers is going to lose out here to MJ Scatters behind, who takes the default 6th place. Slappers crosses the line. Night King comes home in P8. And the Fine Doctor, coming through the final chicane, takes P9 in the Subaru as well. Seems like he's happy with that result. Down in P10, Rioff in the BMW after an excellent first race. Not quite the performance he would have been hoping for in that one, but an excellent job nonetheless to make it into the top 10. Renegade, Cosmic Spirit, and I believe Mickey's finishing off our grid. Shame about the Scud missile attack. Yeah, working well together. Yeah, it was a that was a much tighter race and a much tighter affair. A real shame that that Ando got shafted a little bit in the beginning and lost out a couple of positions there. But that's racing, and that's just what happens sometimes. But very impressive that those two drivers, Ando and Daddy, managed to get themselves up into P1 and 2 respectively, 2 races in a row, even using a reverse grid. So, Daddy takes the spoils in round 10 of the National Touring Car Championship. P1 in race 1 and P1 in race 2 reverse grid, double points. So an excellent result for the evening for that man, and that puts him right in the mix to challenge MJ Scatters in the final 2 rounds of the season. Ando in P2. P2 race 1, P2 race 2, so good points for him as well. Potentially toppling Rugworth out of P2 on the standings to take P3 away from him after Daddy took P2 after race 1.